Hello, I'm Brigantia Blackbird of Blackbird's Brew, and welcome to this latest installment of Journey Through the Tarot. This week we are taking a look at the Hierophant, and you can tell once again we have the assistance of Calliope, who I'm sure will help us through any bumpiness. We are still using the Housewives Tarot to go through this. It is by Paul Keppel and Jude Buffum, and this is what the card looks like. So, in general, when we see the Hierophant, it is primarily representing spiritual leadership and authority, religious institutions, mentorship. On the traditional tarot, it looks rather like the Pope. Obviously, in this deck, it is a little bit different, and that gives us a slightly different interpretation in the card. However, a lot of the meaning still does hold true, regardless of what deck that you're looking at. And when you see the Hierophant in a reading, it can represent a literal person, or an organization, or a personal need that someone has for guidance from another person who's more knowledgeable, more experienced, or just flat out wiser than themselves. Sometimes this will come up in readings with teenagers because they're at that stage of their life where they desperately need guidance from people older and wiser than they are, but they have such a difficult time accepting it, and it's very hard for them to navigate. So it'll oftentimes come up in that. It'll also come up if we feel like we're kind of floundering on the spiritual front, and we just need someone to help us get our bearings. Now, sometimes when this comes up, it can mean that the querent that you're doing the reading for is being challenged to become a mentor in some capacity, most likely in a spiritual context. If they're pagan, this could be in a magical context. This isn't 100% true, but I would say that like 90-95% of the time, it is going to be in more so that kind of realm. So, now for this particular deck. In the Housewives Tarot, this Hierophant, he is pictured as an old-fashioned TV set. This is the sort that our grandparents, or if you're a generation younger than me, your great-grandparents, the kind of thing they would have had back in the day. It was this big, bulky thing. It was a piece of furniture in its own right, and it may have even had a doily on top with various little tchotchkes and doodads. At least that's what my grandmother always did to her television set. This represents the days of endless antenna adjustments to get clear reception and children being shanghaied into the task of changing the channel by hand. Those of you who have never known a world without remote controls, digital reception, and flat screens simply have no idea what it was like. It was an entire different way of life. Now, if we look at the booklet, it assigns 3 keywords to this card, and they are mystery, secrets, and... Oh, good Lord, beg your pardon, that was last week's... This is what shows you. Let's look at the right page. The actual keywords for this card are answers, wisdom, and harsh truths. More often than what most of us would prefer, the idea of answers and wisdom and harsh truths are rather inseparable concepts. They tend to come all at once, with very little regard for our feelings, just a great big rip of the Band-Aid, and here's what it is, and take it or leave it. However, if we reject things just because they're difficult to hear or because it hurts our feelings, how on earth are we going to grow? The question in these cases really ought to be, is what we're being told true or false? If it's true, then perhaps we shouldn't be angry with the person who spoke the words, even if those words were unflattering or made us uncomfortable in some fashion. Now, if it's false, we can just reject it. But if it's true, then we should allow the truth to prevail and sink into our consciousness. Now, taking things well, particularly when they don't necessarily reflect well on ourselves, I say this as something that we can strive for, not as a standard that I or any of the rest of us live up to all the time. We are human, and when our feelings are hurt, we often react emotionally rather than rationally, let alone examining the actual content of what we were told and and how that might be applied. So I doubt anyone can honestly claim that they always take things in a calm, gracious, and rational fashion. I think that's more than what any human being can do. However, what is within our power is to try to do better so that the information can be put to good use, because sometimes unpleasant beginnings can lead to good outcomes. Now, the booklet has a few more notes, and I'm making sure I'm on the right page this time. It says, if you've got questions and need answers, grab the TV guide and switch on the boob tube. The Hierophant offers many answers and reveals secrets on every station. It is a wise but undiscriminating oracle that broadcasts both family-oriented and adult programming. Yes, the reception is crystal clear, but you may not like what you see or hear. Now, it is a very sad commentary on our society, but it is true all the same. Television and its counterparts on social media, if we're talking about uploaded videos, streaming services, podcasts, these have become the de facto oracles of our world. And just consider how much information comes your way, not from the original source, but through the lens of media acting as a middleman. If that doesn't chill your blood, then I'm not sure what does. However, the Hierophant card is not referring to the literal manifestation of how we convey information in our modern times, or of the completely justified trust issues associated with the various institutions and individuals associated with that profession. This is serving more so as a metaphor of how we're getting to know something. Someone who's in a better position to know than we are is telling us something, and that is what this card is really representing. So when we're seeing this particular Hierophant, and it's in the reading, one thing we could do is consider it to be an amplifier. It's trying to put extra emphasis on the cards around of it. Think of it as this gigantic neon light flashing in the shape of an arrow that's pointing at the other cards. It's saying, look at this, this is important, it's a clue, here's your sign. The card has a kind of a bossy energy, and this is entirely on purpose. And of course, that's meant to ensure that the message gets through and is impossible to not understand. So sometimes, depending on the context of the reading, this could be a person, it could be an institution, it could be a challenge for you to take on mentorship, a sign that you require mentorship. It could be a way that other information is being conveyed to you, or it could be that arrow that's pointing at other things and saying, this is what you need to listen to, this is what you should really take to heart and deal with. And it can be difficult to discern which category the reading is really going to go into as far as that goes. But I suppose that's part of the process of learning how to interpret. These are just a few of the ways in which it can be interpreted. So it's a good idea to always mind your surroundings and keep an idea of what the other cards are saying and view it in its complete context. So that's it for the Hierophant. Now next week the card we explore will be the Lovers, so I hope you'll come back for that. But in the meantime, I will see you in another video. Bye.